Have you ever opened your refrigerator late at night, looked at yesterday's leftovers, and felt proud that you were being responsible instead of wasting food? Most people do. It feels smart, practical, safe. But what if one of the most common habits in modern kitchens was quietly exposing your body to chemical reactions your pancreas was never designed to handle over and over again for years? What if the meal you reheated in just 2 minutes was carrying compounds linked in scientific research to inflammation, cellular damage, and some of the deadliest forms of cancer known today? The terrifying part is not that this happens once in a while. The terrifying part is that millions of families repeat these habits every single week without realizing that the second round of heat changes certain foods in ways completely different from the first time they were cooked. And by the time the human body begins showing warning signs, the damage may have already been building silently for decades. Your pancreas does not scream when it is under attack. It stays quiet. No pain. No alarm. No symptoms. That is why pancreatic cancer is one of the most feared diseases in modern medicine. Most patients only discover it after the illness has already advanced, when treatment options become limited and survival rates drop dramatically. Prevention matters more here than almost anywhere else. And some of that prevention starts in your kitchen. Today, I want to walk you through 4 foods that become significantly more dangerous when reheated the wrong way, the hidden chemical reactions happening inside them, and the simple changes that could dramatically reduce the amount of harmful compounds entering your body over the years. Because the truth is not about fear. It is about understanding what happens when heat meets certain ingredients a second time. Once you understand the science, you will never look at leftovers the same way again. Before we talk about the 4 foods, you need to understand the chemistry that makes reheating risky in the first place. When food is cooked for the first time, natural reactions begin immediately. Proteins break down, sugars react with amino acids, fats oxidize, vitamins weaken. In small amounts, the human body can usually handle the byproducts produced during normal cooking. But reheating changes the entire equation. The second exposure to heat often destroys the remaining protective antioxidants that would normally help neutralize harmful compounds. At the same time, it accelerates the production of carcinogenic chemicals, such as nitrosamines, heterocyclic amines, aldehydes, and oxidized fats. In simple language, the first cooking starts the reaction, and reheating pushes that reaction much further. Certain foods are especially vulnerable because of the ingredients naturally present inside them. Some contain nitrates, others contain unstable fats. Others allow bacterial toxins to form during storage. Once heat is applied again, those compounds transform into something far more aggressive than what existed in the fresh meal. Scientists have studied these mechanisms for years, and many of the compounds produced during repeated heating are now classified as probable carcinogens by major international health organizations. The frightening part is that people are rarely warned about the foods most likely to create these reactions. The first food is processed meat. This includes bacon, sausages, hot dogs, ham, deli meat, salami, smoked meat, canned meat, and many packaged meats sold in supermarkets. Most people already suspect processed meat is unhealthy, but they usually think the danger comes only from fat or salt. That is not the full story. The real concern comes from nitrates and nitrites used during preservation. These chemicals help processed meats maintain color and resist bacterial growth, but they also create the perfect environment for nitrosamine formation. Even before you cook processed meat, some nitrosamines already exist inside it because of the manufacturing process. Then the meat gets heated once during cooking, increasing those compounds further. But reheating is where the chemical reaction intensifies dramatically. Every additional exposure to high heat creates more nitrosamines and heterocyclic amines, especially when the meat becomes browned, crispy, or slightly burned. Microwaving bacon until it sizzles, reheating sausage repeatedly, frying leftover ham, or warming deli meat at high temperatures all push these reactions forward. Over time, repeated exposure to these compounds has been associated in research with increased risk of gastrointestinal cancers, especially pancreatic cancer. Imagine someone who eats reheated sausage every morning before work for 20 years. They never feel immediate symptoms. Nothing hurts. But their body experiences repeated chemical exposure day after day, year after year. That is how silent damage works. The pancreas absorbs the consequences quietly until one day symptoms finally appear. And by then, the disease is often advanced. The safer approach is surprisingly simple. If you eat processed meat, cook only the amount you plan to eat immediately. Avoid reheating it at high temperatures. Never scorch it. Never microwave it until parts become hard or crispy. And avoid repeated heating cycles completely. The second food surprises almost everyone because it has a healthy reputation. Spinach, along with kale, celery, beetroot, and other nitrate-rich vegetables. Fresh spinach is incredibly nutritious. It contains vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, folate, and plant compounds that support the body in many ways. The problem is not fresh spinach. The problem begins after it has been cooked, stored, and reheated. Here is what happens. Spinach naturally contains nitrates. In fresh vegetables, nitrates themselves are not dangerous. In fact, they may even support blood vessel health. But once cooked spinach sits for hours, bacterial activity and natural enzymatic reactions begin converting nitrates into nitrites. This transformation continues during storage, especially if the vegetable is left out too long before refrigeration. Then comes the dangerous part. When reheated, those nitrites react with amino acids under heat to form nitrosamines, the same class of carcinogenic compounds associated with cancer risk. People often cook a large batch of spinach, refrigerate it, then microwave it the next day, believing they are making one of the healthiest choices possible. But the second heating fundamentally changes the chemistry inside that vegetable. The longer the storage and the hotter the reheating, the more concerning the reaction becomes. Celery soup reheated multiple times, spinach pasta reheated for lunch, beetroot stews warmed again and again, all can follow similar pathways. The safest solution is not to stop eating vegetables. Quite the opposite. Eat them fresh whenever possible. If you have leftover cooked spinach or kale, consume it cold the next day rather than reheating it. Add it to salads or wraps instead of exposing it to another round of heat. That single change can significantly reduce nitrosamine formation. The third food category is one many people underestimate because it hides inside countless meals. Cooking oil and fried foods. Every time oil is heated, especially polyunsaturated vegetable oils like sunflower, soybean, corn, or canola oil, the fat molecules begin breaking apart through oxidation. This process produces unstable and toxic compounds, including aldehydes, acrolein, and lipid peroxides. When food is fried, those compounds attach directly to the food itself. But the real problem comes when the oil is reused or the fried food is reheated later. Each new heating cycle compounds the oxidation damage already present. Imagine a batch of French fries fried in oil that was already heated earlier in the day. Then those fries are refrigerated and microwaved again the next afternoon. That food has now experienced multiple waves of oxidation, each one increasing the concentration of harmful compounds. Reheated fried chicken, reheated fast food, reheated onion rings, reheated pizza soaked in oxidized oil all carry this issue. Microwaving fried food can be especially problematic because microwave heating is uneven. Some sections become extremely hot while others stay lukewarm. Those overheated areas create hotspots where carcinogenic compounds form more aggressively. Even if you cannot see visible burning, microscopic scorching may already be occurring. Researchers have linked repeatedly heated oils to inflammation, oxidative stress, endothelial damage, and DNA injury. Over time, chronic exposure to oxidized fats creates an internal environment where cellular mutation becomes more likely. The body constantly fights oxidative stress, but decades of repeated exposure can overwhelm those protective systems. The solution is straightforward. Avoid reusing frying oil. Do not repeatedly reheat fried foods. If you absolutely must reheat something fried, use moderate oven heat instead of blasting it in a microwave until it burns around the edges. Better yet, reduce fried foods altogether and choose freshly cooked meals more often. The fourth food is rice, and this one is dangerous for a completely different reason. The issue with rice is not mainly carcinogenic chemicals formed through reheating. The danger comes from bacteria and heat-resistant toxins. Many people cook huge pots of rice and leave them sitting on the counter for hours before refrigeration. This creates the perfect environment for a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. The spores of this bacterium survive the original cooking process. Once the rice cools slowly at room temperature, the bacteria begin multiplying rapidly and producing toxins. Here is the critical detail most people never hear. Reheating the rice kills the bacteria, but it does not destroy the toxins already produced. Those toxins are heat resistant. That means microwaving the rice until it feels hot does not necessarily make it safe again. In the short term, these toxins can cause vomiting, cramps, diarrhea, and nausea. But repeated exposure to bacterial toxins also contributes to chronic intestinal inflammation, and long-term inflammation is strongly connected to gastrointestinal disease and cancer development. Many families repeat this cycle constantly. Rice sits out after dinner. It goes into the fridge late. It gets reheated the next day, then reheated again after that. Every cycle increases risk. The safest method is simple. Cool rice quickly after cooking. Refrigerate it within 1 hour whenever possible. Store it properly. Reheat it only once, making sure it becomes steaming hot throughout. And never keep reheating the same batch again and again over several days. Cooking smaller portions is far safer than relying on giant leftover containers all week long. What makes all of this so dangerous is not one single meal. One reheated sausage will not suddenly cause cancer tomorrow. One bowl of reheated rice will not destroy your body overnight. Disease develops through repeated exposure over years. Tiny amounts of damage accumulate silently. Cells experience inflammation again and again. DNA encounters oxidative stress repeatedly. Protective systems slowly weaken. And eventually, the body reaches a point where abnormal cells begin surviving instead of dying. That is how chronic disease often develops. Quietly, gradually, invisibly. The modern kitchen normalized reheating because convenience became more important than understanding food chemistry. People are busy. They work long hours. They meal prep for the week. They microwave leftovers because it saves time and money. None of that makes someone careless. But understanding which foods react badly to repeated heat allows you to make smarter choices without completely changing your life. You do not need to fear food. You do not need to panic every time you open your refrigerator. You simply need awareness. Awareness changes behavior, and behavior repeated consistently changes long-term health outcomes. Imagine how much unnecessary exposure could be reduced through just a few habits. Freshly cooking smaller portions of processed meat. Eating leftover spinach cold instead of microwaving it. Throwing away used frying oil instead of reusing it for days. Cooling rice properly and reheating it only once. Small adjustments. Massive difference over decades. The body is constantly trying to protect you. Your liver detoxifies harmful compounds every day. Your immune system destroys abnormal cells every day. Your pancreas works silently every single hour, regulating blood sugar and digestion. But even the strongest systems can become overwhelmed by repeated chemical stress over time. That is why prevention matters. Prevention is not dramatic. It happens in ordinary decisions repeated week after week. The food you choose, the way you store it, the way you heat it again. Those habits either reduce inflammation or feed it. They either lower toxic exposure or increase it. Modern medicine is incredible at treating disease, but some diseases remain devastating once they fully develop. Pancreatic cancer is one of them. That is why reducing unnecessary exposure before illness appears is one of the smartest investments anyone can make for their future health. The frightening truth is that many people spend years searching for complicated health solutions while ignoring the simplest daily habits quietly shaping their biology. They buy supplements, expensive detox drinks, miracle powders, entire indexer Meanwhile, they repeatedly expose themselves to preventable chemical compounds sitting inside reheated leftovers every single week. Real health protection often looks boring. Proper food storage, fresh cooking, lower heat, fewer reheating cycles, better kitchen habits. These small actions matter more than most people realize. And perhaps the most important lesson here is this: healthy foods can become unhealthy under the wrong conditions. Spinach is healthy fresh. Rice is healthy when stored safely. Oil is manageable when used correctly. But heat changes chemistry. Storage changes chemistry. Time changes chemistry. Food is not static. The moment cooking begins, reactions begin too. That is why understanding food science matters more now than ever before. We live in a world where convenience dominates daily life. Microwaves run constantly. Leftovers fill refrigerators. Fast food gets reheated late at night. Few people stop to think about what repeated heat actually does at the molecular level. But your cells experience those changes, whether you understand them or not. And your body remembers repeated exposure even when your mind does not. So the next time you stand in front of your microwave holding leftover bacon, fried chicken, spinach pasta, or old rice, pause for just a second. Ask yourself whether that convenience is worth another unnecessary round of chemical stress on your body. Sometimes the healthiest decision is not dramatic at all. Sometimes it is simply choosing fresh food over reheated food whenever possible. Your future health is being shaped quietly by the habits you repeat today. And the kitchen may be one of the most important places where that future is decided.